Hey everybody, it's ShadowStar here for my review of Arrow Season 2. So, Arrow Season 2, it's easily one of my absolute favourite seasons of Arrow. I remember when I first watched this season way back in the day, and to me it just felt like a perfect sequel to Season 1. Like, right from the get-go, it picks up perfectly where everything left off, showing you the complete repercussions of everything that happened last season and what's going on. We get introduced to new characters like Sebastian Blood, and we deal with the results of the undertaking, and those first few episodes are really good at picking up where Season 2 left off. So, before we get into the highlights of the season, let's talk about the downsides of the season. Laurel. I mean, if you hated Laurel in Season 1, oh boy, will you hate her in Season 2. Season 2 is the definition of horrible Laurel. She becomes an alcoholic drunk who just completely blames the entire world on everything and never takes any responsibility for herself. She utterly hates Oliver, Sarah, and everyone. Sure, she comes around in the end, okay? She does come around in the end, especially when she learns Oliver's the Arrow. But in the middle of the season, she is completely unbearable, and it makes me wonder why anyone could ever love a character like Laurel. God. But you want a character who completely improves this season? Quentin. This season, Quentin works with the Arrow. He works with the Arrow, he works with Sarah, he works with the police. Quentin has a lot of good qualities in this season, especially near the end when he takes on a leadership role with the police. He's always willing to work with the Arrow, he understands what needs to be done, and he's always there to help and be an extra person. Honestly, Season 2 is some of the best Quentin we have for quite a while, so yeah. But speaking of Season 2, we have the flashbacks, and unlike Season 1, where the flashbacks were kind of detached, Season 2's flashbacks are heavily connected, since both Slade and Sarah are both in the present and the past, so it gives us a huge story about what happens with Slade and Sarah, and it really shows how far the flashbacks are willing to go by giving us Oliver's story. It shows us what happens with Slade so we can connect it to the present. It heavily connects to the present, and the flashbacks are actually really good, and unlike last season, I'm not bored during the flashbacks at all. I mean, I wasn't bored during last season's flashbacks either, but the flashbacks are way better. We get a little bit of a team with Sarah and Slade and Oliver before everything completely goes off the rails. Even Anatoly is in the flashbacks, and that's great. Seeing Anatoly in the flashbacks is great too, so we introduced so many good characters are in the flashbacks this season. But speaking of things that were built up well and are a sequel to the last season, Moira. Moira, in the first half of this season, is really good. I mean, obviously we pick up with her being in prison, and we have her awaiting her trial, and the trial episode is one of my favourite episodes, so lots of good stuff with Moira. Then she kind of doesn't do much, but then she's going to run for mayor. And that goes well as too, because, we get that, so, and obviously we get her confrontation with Malcolm, with him being still alive, so Moira has a lot to do, and she really redeems herself near the end, of course. But, of course, this is also the season where Moira is killed, but still, that was an emotional ending for her character as well, and, there was a lot going on with her, and like I said, I loved the build-up with her trial in those first 7 episodes, and building it up with her being in prison and the legal stuff, and I always enjoy a good courtroom episode, so I absolutely love that. But speaking of things that were built up very well, The Flash. This season builds up the show of The Flash. Even before Barry shows up, they will constantly foreshadow Star Labs on the news before he even shows up. And then when he does show up, they're constantly foreshadowing of things that are going to happen in the show. Then there's an episode where Cisco and Caitlin shows up. So, this season is just jam-packed with stuff. You've got The Flash, you've got Moira, you've got Slade, Shadow. Now we've got Sarah. Sarah is back, and she is an actual character. She's got a whole plotline in the flashbacks, and she's got a whole plotline in the present. She introduces us to the League of Assassins. She introduces us to a character with Sin, who connects with Roy. Everything's interconnected, and I absolutely love it. It's the season that gave us Sarah. Like I said, Season 2 is just jam-packed with characters. It's just jam-packed with amazing episodes and amazing moments. Roy is a huge improvement this season. He gets to go on a character arc. He gets Mirakuru. He meets Sin. He meets Sarah. He has a relationship with Thea. He joins the team. I love the episodes where we've got a whole team with like Sarah and Roy, as well as Diggle and Felicity and everybody else. Honestly, the team is great in this episode, this season. The base gets a much needed improvement, so it's not an ugly hellhole. Honestly, almost every character, other than Laurel, gets a huge improvement. Diggle even got some plot lines. Last season he got some with Deadshot, and now he still does. Deadshot's got more episodes. We're introduced to Lila, and they're in a relationship. Then we get foreshadowing of Hive, so we're planning things way in advance. And then we get introduced to the Suicide Squad, which is always fun in the Arrowverse. Honestly, every character gets an episode to shine. Even, like, Felicity got a couple episodes to shine here and there. And, I really like Felicity in this season. She gets a great dynamic with, like, Diggle and Sarah and all the other characters, so, like, we really build a well-rounded team in Season 2. Honestly, there's just not a dull episode. There's no bad characters other than Laurel. And even Laurel improves near the end. Quentin's amazing. Felicity's amazing. Sarah gets this whole story. We get introduced to so many characters who are going to be huge characters. And then we have our villain, Slade, a character from the flashbacks who's now in the present. It's just perfect. We have a character where we know who the villain is. They have a tremendous rivalry with our protagonist. Honestly, Slade is one of the better villains. He does become a little unhinged, and I can understand why people might not like that aspect. But at the same time, he's always ahead of Oliver, always thinking everything through. He lays in plans to, like, screw with Oliver's company, screws with Thea, screws with everyone. Thea gets a huge improvement near the end. At the start of the season, she can be a bit of a bitch, but she's also running Verdant, which is a big improvement. But then she finds out about Malcolm, and then in the climactic finale, she gets to meet Malcolm, and she joins Malcolm, and that starts the huge arc of one of my favourite things for Thea. So, Season 2 leaves us on a good note with Thea as well. And Slade was a tremendous villain. That finale is a perfect finale. That finale has everyone. It brings back almost everyone from the season. Sarah comes back with League. Slade has a whole army. Everyone is in this season. Argus is in the finale with the Suicide Squad. It's like, you bring back basically anyone who was significant in the season and you put them in the finale. I love a huge fight scene where you got a whole army versus another one. Like, you've got the League of Assassins with Quentin, with Sarah, with everyone versus Slade's army, and it's brilliant. But honestly, Season 2 is a perfect season. It gives you so much. It jam-packs so much into the season, and there's so many good characters, whether it's characters like Sebastian Blood, who are kind of villains, whether it's our true villain, whether it's Moira having an arc to go on, or characters like Quentin being improved, giving us characters like Sarah, or introducing us to Barry, two of which will become huge characters in the Arrowverse as a whole. So, like, and there's so many things that are foreshadowed, whether it's foreshadowing the Flash or Hive or other things. There's so many things in Arrow Season 2 which are just set up perfectly for future seasons, setting up great characters. Basically, it's a huge, perfect sequel to last season. Honestly, like I said, I remember falling in love with this season when I saw it the first time. It's a perfect sequel to Season 1. There's barely any downsides other than Laurel causing drama in the middle, but other than that, it's a perfect season. I absolutely loved Season 2. I always will. I'm not sure if it's my favourite. I constantly flip-flop on whether Season 2 or 5 is better. I think I might say Season 2 better, but Season 5 is pretty good too. Unfortunately, we do have to review Season 3, and Season 3 does have some good things, but it definitely has some bad things too. But I'll worry about that later. For now, Season 2 is perfect, and it's before any of the other shows came along, but it sets up so many other shows so well. But yes, I've rambled on enough. I could go into individual things like how emotional the flashbacks are with Shadow dying, and, all the deaths are great, like Shadow dying or Moira dying. Moira's funeral is a really nice scene. Like, I could go in, there's so many nice scenes, whether it's Moira's funeral, whether it's like Quentin gets his own episode with the Dollmaker, Felicity gets her own episode with the Clock King. There's so many good one-off villains like the Count, the Clock King, Vertigo, the Dollmaker. Lots of good creepy villains in this season. Roy gets his... Like, every character gets their own little story, usually an episode or two to focus on them. We introduce things like Anatoly and Sarah. So, like I said, Season 2 introduces so many key characters who will go on to become major parts of Arrow and the Arrowverse in general. I absolutely love it. Anyway, I think I've rambled on. I could go on and name so many individual little bits, but yes, Season 2, my favourite Arrow season. It's been fun to rewatch it, it's been fun to review it. I will review Season 3. I have very mixed feelings about certain aspects in Season 3, but other than that, I'll see you next time for more Arrow reviews and other things as well. See you next time, guys.